Hi there, Steve here again. I want to do a video here in English to cover some of the ground that I covered in a recent video which I did in French on the subject of why Link is a commercial site. And if you look in YouTube, you'll see the previous YouTube video put up by this gentleman from France who said essentially, I've been listening to Steve's videos where he has all these ideas about language learning and encouraging people to learn languages, and then when I went to Link, I discovered that they're talking about points and dollars, and it all of a sudden struck me that it was a commercial site, and I was quite shocked. And so what I said was that I can understand that he found it to be very commercial because it is commercial. And so I explained in the video that at Link we have programmers whom we have to pay. We have employees, we have costs, we have servers, and significant costs. And we have been at this for 5 or 6 years, and we think we're starting to get there, but we're not yet at a point where we cover our costs. So yeah, we do like people to pay if they appreciate our service, and I don't think there should be anything shocking about the fact that a service or a product is offered for sale for money. And I very much, and I've mentioned this before, I find it extremely annoying, this idea on the internet that things just should be free. How can they possibly be free? Either people are paid to do some other job, and then in their free time they put up a site, which is fine, or they do it as their main job, or there are people employed there, and these people expect to be paid because that's the way our society works. And you get paid at one job, and with that you go off somewhere. And of course, in your job, you're producing a product or a service that other people consider to be valuable enough to pay for. So you earn your money, and then you go off and spend your money to buy a shirt or to buy a book or whatever you want to buy. That's how the system works. Why would you expect that things should be free? And there is this sense somehow, and I'm sure there are people who are members of Link, and we offer a lot of things for free at Link, and for very good reasons. One reason is that and of course our content is free, our audio and text is free, and that's for the very good reason that we receive it free of charge. So we can't possibly sell something that we get for free. The second reason is that we offer a lot of our functionality free, up to a limit of so many words and phrases, is that we're hoping this will encourage more people to join the site. So it's basically a means of promoting the site. It's not because I want to spend a lot of money hiring programmers and staff and creating a system so that the world can come to this trough and eat for free. I may want to do that, but obviously I could not continue doing that for very long. To me, there's nothing morally superior about free. And that's not to say that I'm against public services, but they are not free. I pay taxes, and there's an upfront, transparent formula which says that I'm required to pay so much in taxes. And I can see where the government spends my money. I'm often not very happy about how they spend my money, but it's open. It's clear. And some facilities I really enjoy. I go to the local community center and I pay a very small amount of money to use it, to swim, to work out. And I'm happy, and that's subsidized by my taxes, and that's fine. And health and education and so forth. That's all fine and dandy. But what I object to is, like, now I go to Wikipedia, and there's a big banner at the top. The founder of Wikipedia is begging for a donation. I wish he would stop doing that. I find Wikipedia very useful. If he said to me it's $5 a year or $10 a year, I would gladly pay that amount of money. If he has, and I'm sure he does have, many millions of people visiting his site, if they all paid $5 or $10, then he'd have all the money he needed. What is this business about being free and then begging? Now, because what bothers me is, I know from my research that when you have a begging bowl at your website, there isn't 1% of visitors who contributes. 99% are happy to use it free. And so if you have a product or a service like Wikipedia, you should charge for it. And if say Wikipedia starts to charge $5 or $10 a year and people stop using it, well, then that means that people don't value the service. I mean, if I made lousy shoes and gave them away, people would take my shoes. But if I started charging, maybe $10, they would say they're no good, but at $10 they might still take my shoes, and at $50 they stop taking them. And so if your service is of value, in my opinion, you should charge for it. Now, the other solution is to have advertising. I'm not a great fan of advertising, so we don't have advertising at LingQ. I don't think we'd earn enough from advertising. We don't have enough traffic, but I also object to it. Every time I open a language site and I see Rosetta Stone and I see Confucius Institute there, I find it annoying. So I think what I think is a more reasonable thing is to charge for the service. Now, there are aspects of marketing on the internet, the sort of long tail approach that says that you provide a range of services free of charge as a means of attracting people, and then a small number will subscribe to sort of elite services. So that's a legitimate marketing decision. That's not altruism. And there are people, like I know at LingQ that there are a lot of people who like using it free and who object to having to pay, and they think they're very clever because they can avoid paying, because they can delete words and keep their database of saved words and phrases below 300. But they're defeating the purpose of the system. I mean, I have, in just Russian alone, I've saved 30,000 words and phrases. I got 10,000 in Portuguese. And so when I open up new content, I immediately see which are my new words, which are my words that I'm trying to learn. There's tremendous benefit from maintaining a full database of all these words and phrases that you're eventually going to learn. Why would you? I mean, you're putting in the time, and these are not people who can't afford $10 a month, as is the case with LingQ. Or if we go back to Wikipedia, the argument always would be, well, Wikipedia wants to make, knowledge available to everybody around the world. Some people are poor. Like, I beg your pardon? People who access Wikipedia own a computer or have access to a computer. So that if they own a computer, they can pay $10 a year for the service of using Wikipedia. If they're using the computer at a local community center or a library, then that institution should pay $10 a year in order to provide Wikipedia to the people who visit that library. So the issue of not being able to afford it and making knowledge free doesn't make sense. I guess another argument might be that Wikipedia is run on the basis of volunteers. Well, that's fine. Most of those volunteers have someone else putting food on their table for them, or they work at a job so that they can moonlight, so to speak, and volunteer, which is fine. Nothing wrong with volunteering. But just because you have a lot of volunteers doesn't mean that you also can't charge for the service. I can't think of anything more commercial right now than the Olympic Games that's about to take place here in Vancouver. They own the name Olympic. They've shut down Greek restaurants because they use the name Olympic. All the athletes show up with their skis and the brand name of their supplier. It's totally commercial. But there's 25,000 volunteers that are going to help out because they want to. Similarly, at LingQ, we have volunteers who help us in many ways, who create content. But I have always tried at LingQ to say, okay, you give us content, we will reward you with points. The points that we get, that we confiscate from people who don't use up all their points. We at LingQ, the tutors, we want them to be compensated. So you tutor your language, you earn points. You can then sign up with a tutor in the language that you're trying to learn. As much as possible, compensate people for their effort. I think that's a good idea. But there's nothing wrong with volunteering. But what I don't agree with is the idea, first of all, that things on the internet should be free, because that doesn't make sense. And second of all, the idea of begging on the internet. I'm very much opposed to it. There you have it. I didn't cover quite the same ground, but more or less the same as was in the French video. And that was for Vera, a very loyal volunteer at LingQ. Thank you.